We do not have a theme song. We need a
we
theme
we
song.
need an intro. We need a music intro. What song do you think would be appropriate?
I don't know, man. Like, I'm a real American, but maybe like put it like New Mexican, you know? I am a real New Mexican.
Cool, cool. Well, let's get into it. I think everything's working on my end. I can hear you. You can hear me.
Awesome.
Um, so yeah, we are. Tell us about. We're gonna get into some things. We're gonna talk about um, a little bit of a documentary that Pedro has suggested, and I've known of some of the themes of Adam Curtis.
Yeah,
Um, I
yeah.
think it's pretty brilliant. It's different. It's a different kind of docu style. So we're, let's go over who he is first.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's see. Do you have like the wiki article there?
I do. Let's see. Let's see if we can get into it. Let me know if you can see it.
Hmm. You do not have a screen share on. Oh, there we go.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. You want to read that for us, Pedro?
Yeah, sure. I'll start with the top. Adam Curtis is an English documentary filmmaker. Curtis began his career as a conventional documentary producer for the BBC throughout the 1980s and in the early 1990s. The release of Pandora Box in '92 marked the introduction of Curtis' distinctive presentation that uses college to explore aspects of sociology, psychology, philosophy, and political history.
Cool. Cool. Cool.
His style has been described as involving whiplash, digressions, menacing atmospherics, and arpeggiated scores, and a near psychedelic compilation of archival footage. Narrated by Curtis himself with patrician economy and assertion, his films have won 5 BAFTAs.
Cool. So he's he has the documentary which we're gonna see for a good bit. What is that documentary called? It's called
Hypernormalization.
hypernormalization.
Mhm.
Let's look it up.
Yeah,
Hyper.
it's a classic, and we could either watch that or we could watch Century of the Self, which is another pretty good one of his.
Cool. So it's a 2016 BBC documentary by British filmmaker Adam Curtis. It argues that governments, financiers, and technological utopians have since the 1970s given up on trying to model the complex real world and instead established a simplified fake world for the benefit of corporations and kept stable by neoliberal governments around the world. Joder. Wow, that's heavy.
Yeah,
That's,
it's one of his
uh,
goodies, you know.
cool.
It's one of his goodies.
Let's take a. You want to take a look of it? At it?
Yeah, we don't necessarily have to watch all of it, you know. It is interesting, because he works with the BBC, he works
Mm-hmm.
with the British Broadcasting Corporation, but his documentaries actually do strong criticism against like policies of like the UK, you know, which is quite interesting to observe that.
Sure, sure. Yeah, yeah. So, I think we should get into the. I have two clips. They're pretty short, but they're two clips that I thought were pretty interesting. And yeah, let's check it out. Let me know if you can see the video.
A nice aperitif. Oh, there's Putin.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Let's start.
But in Russia, there was a group of men who had seen how this very lack of belief in politics and dark uncertainty about the future could work to their advantage. What they had done was turn politics into a strange theatre, where nobody knew what was true or what was fake any longer. They were called political technologists.
Let me know if you
and
need
they
to
were the
pause
key
somewhere.
figures behind President Putin. They had kept him in power, unchallenged, for 15 years. Some of them had been dissidents back in the 1970s and had been powerfully influenced by the science fiction writings of the Strugatsky brothers. 20 years later, when Russia fell apart after the end of communism, they rose up and took control of the media. And they used it to manipulate the electorate on a vast scale. For them, reality was just something that could be manipulated and shaped into anything you wanted it to be.
Hmm. Could you put a pause?
But then a technologist emerged who went much further, and his ideas would become central to Putin's grip on power. He was called Vladislav Surkov. Surkov came originally from the theatre world, and those who have studied his career say that what he did was take
Hey
avant-garde
Orlando, you
ideas
think you
from the
could
theatre
pause it real
and
quick?
bring them into the heart of politics.
What's up?
I just want to so we can actually give a little bit of context about what the hell is going on back there, as for the audience. This actually goes all the way back to like the fall of like the Soviet Union, and as some of you may know, is that a lot of like the state enterprises that the Soviet government actually used to have, they had to be privatized. And but the problem is that when they were actually being sold, they were sold for very cheap and very quickly. And part of the reason why that happened is because there was already a plan to actually like start privatizing it. That was like a long-term plan of like 20, 25 years. That was actually like already like being planned from Gorbachev's time. But the problem is that there was a lot of opposition from like the old regime of the Soviet government that's opposed any sort of like reform. So like the whole policy actually fall into a situation of what is called shock doctrine. Now, even though the reforms are absolutely necessary, that the way that they actually were executed actually led to like the situation in which now Russia is pretty much controlled by an oligarchy, in which just a couple of families control like the major industries in the whole country. And pretty much this is something that Curtis is actually touching upon right now. Just
Yeah,
for people to have some context as they're watching this.
for sure, for sure. And the fall of the Soviet Empire, well, the Soviet Union, was very dramatic. Um, it was so dramatic that you know how the Battle of Berlin was anticlimactic.
You think so? How
I
so?
think it was an anticlimactic battle in the sense that there wasn't so much involved as other battles. There was other battles bigger than the Battle of Berlin,
Yeah, yeah.
and
I mean, go ahead, go
what I'm
ahead.
trying to
Sorry.
say is that the fall of the Soviet Union kind of echoed the fall of Berlin.
Yeah, yeah,
It was a very dramatic time, and it gave birth to the essentially the ideology and the living real reality right now that we have with Russia.
yeah, yeah. I will say that, for example, I don't know, like, what would you say fundamentals like Russia's like modern ideology? Like, what do you think Putin believes in?
Well, first of all,
If
I do no go for it.
you go ahead, you go ahead.
I I, I personally believe a lot some sporadic countries across the earth are matriarchies and patriarchies. Russia is one
Mm.
of the few examples of being a matriarchy.
Oh
So
wow,
yeah, so
yeah.
people tend to think that it's a patriarchy, and people will kind of retaliate and say, "Oh, why is the president not a woman then?" Well, let's be honest. You know, the men belong to the Russian state, and the women do the admin. They're lawyers, they're doctors. Um,
Hmm.
so they it was, and they're also called the motherland, right? It's right there. Catherine the Great, it was just, it's just obvious. So I think they're coming from a place where they are in a defense mode right now,
Hmm.
against larger powers, if that makes sense. And they're a large power, but what I'm saying is that they are now allied with other um, central powers in the regions, but they also have, against them Britain, France, NATO, the United States. South America is up in the air.
South America is against itself.
Yeah. Yeah. That's funny. Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't go to nuclear war. South America and Mexico and Central America, we don't go to war. We don't do
Bro,
nuclear
then
war.
and then you wonder why your videos are not viral on YouTube, but they are in Rumble.
Good point. Good point. Good point. So do you want to keep going, or do you have anything else?
No, no, yeah, like if any of us have like any point to add, like we could just pause the video.
Okay. Yeah, and then I have another extract from hypernormalization right here. They're both like 4 minutes.
Yeah, that's good.
Cool, cool. I'm gonna
Let's
keep
go.
playing.
Surkov's aim was not just to manipulate people, but to go deeper and play with and undermine their very perception of the world, so they are never sure what is really happening. Surkov turned Russian politics into a bewildering, constantly changing piece of theatre. He used Kremlin money to sponsor all kinds of groups, from mass anti-fascist youth organizations.
Looks like a Chavez protest, bro.
Let me. Could you repeat that part? I had to like turn on my
Very
lights.
opposite.
How's that? It looks like a Chavista protest.
Nah, not enough red colors on red
Yeah,
shirts.
yeah, true.
Neo-Nazi skinheads,
Oh, there they are. There they are.
Oh,
and
there they
liberal
are.
human rights groups who then attacked the government. Surkov even backed whole political parties that were opposed to President Putin. But the key thing was that Surkov then let it be known that this was what he was doing, which meant that no one was sure what was real or what was fake in modern Russia. As one journalist put it, it's a strategy of power that keeps any opposition constantly confused, a ceaseless shape-shifting that is unstoppable because it is indefinable. Meanwhile, real power was elsewhere, hidden away behind the stage, exercised without anyone seeing it. And then the same thing seemed to start happening in the West. By now, it was becoming ever more clear that the system had deep flaws. Every month, there were new revelations of most of the bank's involvement in global corruption, of massive tax avoidance by all the major corporations, of the secret surveillance of everyone's emails by the National Security Agency. Yet no one was prosecuted, except for a few people at the lowest levels. And behind it all, the massive inequality kept on growing. Yet the structure of power remained the same. Nothing ever changed, because nothing could be allowed to destabilize the system. But then the shape-shifting began.
Thank you very much. So nice. So amazing. So amazing. What? That's okay. I love you more, okay?
Oh man. Like this actually kind of like takes me back to like an interesting point that Julia was making. For those of you who don't know, Julia's my girlfriend. And I'll pause real quick. And it's actually interesting what Curtis was saying about like how like the Russian media actually like shape shift, and it kind of like also a continuation of a point that was being made that Putin is not a chess player, but he's a judoka, like a practicing of judo. And he does not really have a long term strategy. He never really did, but rather he just reacted and
Sure.
shifted and took form of whatever like the situation was in front of him. And that's why many times you observe him taking policy decisions at the moment. He sees like an opportunity and he takes it. Like during the occupation of Crimea in 2015, like the Chechnya crisis, I believe at around like the 2000s, and pretty much basically trying to find like openings and momentums to actually take advantage of, you know. And that could actually kind of explain, for example, how like the Russian media acts upon. If the Russian media needs to be conservative, it will be conservative. If it needs to be left-wing socialist, anti-imperialist, it will be that.
Yeah.
If it even needs to be liberal, it will
Yeah.
be liberal.
Does the shape shifting, right? Does the
It's,
shape shifting
yeah,
aspect. Yeah. Yeah. I think Russia is interesting because, well, I think every part of the world is interesting, right? But because we're on this topic, um, let's not forget, right, that the birthplace of shamanism was not just in the jungle. It happened in Russia as well, in Siberia.
yeah,
So uh, there's a whole deep concept of the land in Russia. As in they connect to their land incredibly um powerful that they will even bleed for it, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
I think that may be a little bit different in the West. I don't think people would bleed so much for their land. What do you think?
That's really complicated to say, but I mean, okay, Sparta, the Greeks. Like if you actually observe like the warrior culture, for example, like the Greeks or like the Romans, those were also like warrior cultures and actually put out strong emphasis on the concept that your rights and your freedoms must be paid with blood. That in order to survive, sacrifice must be made. And even in like in contemporary history, I mean, just look at World War II. How many acts of heroism and bravery and sacrifice do we actually observe on that?
Yeah,
I don't think it's a Russian thing. I would say that that is actually like a human thing,
yeah, it's
fundamentally
universal.
speaking.
Yeah,
It's
it's universal.
universal.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess just in this context, because we're talking about Russia a little bit, but I feel like in the West, um, we haven't experienced the world wars the same as in Europe or in Eurasia. So we we are so far from the idea that war could happen at such a scale. Whereas on that part of the world, they expect it already. They've already experienced it. Um, but hey, like I'm not really sure, but I do think the shape shifting aspect is pretty clear, especially in American politics, because there's sometimes Democrats that act more like Republicans and Republicans that act more like Democrats. And but
I
hey,
mean,
that go for it.
if you ever taken like a public speaking class and public speaking 101, one of the first rules they actually tell you always is that you have to consider the audience. That's pretty much what it is about, And politicians, especially like in a democracy, that is what they will do. You know, Trump will be a New Yorker when he speaks in New York. He'll be a Texan when he's speaking in Texas. He'll be a liberal, all in favor of cutting taxes and regulation when he's speaking with like business people. But he will also like support tariffs and protectionist policies and even perhaps be pro-union when speaking to like a crowd of workers,
Mhm.
fundamentally speaking.
Yeah.
And the
But
thing is, all
Putin
politicians.
doesn't go to Dagestan and just be like, "Hey, it's all good," you know. He doesn't just go to Chechnya. Well, I mean, yeah, there's a difference, you know. Like, do you remember that scene in have you ever seen House of Cards?
I have not seen it. I've been wanting to watch it.
Yeah, I haven't
Too
seen
bad
all
the
of
actor is a pedophile.
it. I haven't seen it all, but I remember this one scene, this one episode. I don't remember. Like, I was just skipping through it. But the Russian president and the Democratic president go to, I don't know if it was Syria or Iraq or Afghanistan, and they're there during the war,
Mhm.
and the Democratic president, the U.S. president, is super fragile, um, easily frightened, obviously not an experience, right, with
Mhm.
military conflict, and the
Yeah.
Russian was, you know, experienced. So I think there's a clear divide in those ideologies. I know that's a small example, but it just reflects the what I mentioned. You know, they're more conflict ready, and we are just kind of, you know, consumer ready.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I guess it's because nowadays, like the shift of modern warfare is, well, first of all, we don't even have a military draft in most Western countries nowadays. China doesn't have a draft. I think the draft only applies to Russia, and they don't do it that much neither, you know. But also, I think that one of them, because it is pretty unpopular, like people don't want to be drafted, people
Sure,
don't.
yeah, sure.
Like the only countries in which I think that people actually approve of it is some European countries like Switzerland or Finland, because it's kind of like ingrained in their culture. And it actually does provide them with like some social benefits, because like social cohesion, experience, you actually get to learn trades while in there. And when everybody has like a shared experience, it kind of helps like, unite people, you know.
Yeah, yeah. But
Whereas just, go ahead.
no. Finish your point.
But I will also say that that doesn't seem to work so much nowadays in the modern world, just because a lot of our warfare is pushing more and more towards specialization, small battle groups, and a lot of automatization and the use of drones and robots. You know, it's really less about how many soldiers you can push to the front line,
Yeah.
and much more about like how effectively you can use each soldier and the equipment that you can use. You
Hmm.
would be a fool to not invest on drones, because we can already observe how dangerous and how lethal drones are as we
Yeah.
observe the Ukrainian conflict.
Yeah.
Whereas the whole, like it is romanticized, like the Russian strategy of like just push everyone into the front line y que sea lo que Dios quiera.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. It doesn't
Yeah.
work. 100,000 casualties. 100,000 casualties. America had 58,000 in the Vietnam Wars in 20 years, and that was enough to actually lead to like the possibility for mass unrest in the
Hmm.
country.
Hmm.
You know, look at Russia.
Well, the Ukrainian men are leaving Ukraine. Um, they're avoiding the draft.
Naturally,
Or more, not. It's not even a draft, right? It's kind of forced conscription. Um,
I guess it depends too, because some of the Ukrainian, if they have like a family, like daughters or sons and a wife, that is totally understandable, to be honest, because for a lot of men, their family comes first, you know. But I'm not sure how much does that happen with like Ukrainian men who are single and who got nothing going on. They probably also drafted the dodging the draft.
mhm.
But you have to compare like what percentage of like Ukrainians are dodging the draft and what percentage of Russians are also attempting to dodge the draft too,
Yeah,
because it happens in Russia too.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
will
I mean,
say
who
that,
would who wouldn't?
yeah,
You know, who wouldn't for these kind of conflicts?
yeah,
But
yeah.
I understand there's those types of people that are involved in that world, and that world is much bigger than mine. You know, the world of conflict, the world of confrontation, the world of cultures colliding is much bigger than our individual lives. Um,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and we kind of tend to forget about that. But let's watch 2 minutes of this hypernormalization. Let's get it out of the way, and then I have some topics for us to touch on.
All right.
All right, let's hit it. Do you see my screen?
Not yet. I cannot
After
see
the
the
failure
screen.
of the revolutions, it was not just the radicals. No one in the West had any idea.
Oh, you can't see it?
I cannot see it now.
Okay, let me see. All right, you should be able to see it shortly.
Let's see. Let's see.
The politicians had given so much of their power away to finance and the ever-growing managerial bureaucracies that they, in effect, had become managers themselves.
You can see it, right?
While abroad,
Yeah, I can see
all
it.
their adventures and their simplistic vision of the world had been exposed as dangerous and destructive. But in Russia, there was a group of men who had seen how this very lack of belief in politics and dark uncertainty about the future could work to their
Yeah, we already saw this part.
elsewhere, hidden away nothing
There we
before in
go.
politics. Nothing was fixed. What he said, who he attacked, and how he attacked them was constantly changing and shifting. Trump attacked his Republican rivals as being all part of a broken and corrupt system, a politics where everyone could be bought, using words that could have come from the Occupy movement.
You've also donated to several Democratic candidates, Hillary Clinton included, Nancy Pelosi. You explained away those donations, saying you did that to get business-related favors. And you said recently, quote, "When you give, they do whatever the hell you want them to do."
You better believe it.
So what specifically did they do?
If I ask them, if I need them, most of the people on this stage I've given to, just so you understand, a lot of money. I will tell you that our system is broken. I give to many people. Before 2 months ago, I was a businessman. I give to everybody. When they call, I give. And you know what? When I need something from them, 2 years later, 3 years later, I call them. They are there for me. And that's a broken system.
But at the same time, Trump used the language of the extreme racist right in America, connecting with people's darkest fears, pushing them and bringing those fears out into the open.
Get the fuck out of here! Our country! Proud fucking American! Made in USA, bitch! Made in fucking USA! Come
The liberals were outraged by Trump, but they expressed their anger in cyberspace, so it had no effect. Because the algorithms made sure that
I don't
they
know why
only
that
spoke to
statement was
people
just so
who
funny.
already agreed with them. Instead, ironically, their waves of angry messages and tweets benefited the large corporations who ran the social media platforms.
Yeah.
One online analyst put it simply: angry people click more. It meant that the radical fury that came like waves across the internet no longer had the power to change the world. Instead, it was becoming a fuel that was
Crazy. But anyways, this documentary is available. It's available on YouTube. I think it's a must. I think it's a must.
Yeah, yeah. Like everyone out there, just watch every single Adam Curtis documentary ever. I will start with hypernormalization and also Century of the Self. that which has three different
Mm.
parts all available for free on YouTube. Like
Okay.
it will actually like change like the way you view the world.
Sure, sure, sure. So let's get into a little bit of. We're gonna touch on a little bit of world news, and then we're gonna get into some stuff that happened in Mexico not too long ago. Or what do you want to touch on first, the Mexico stuff or the world news?
Let's look at the world news. Do you have anything like articles prepared or
I have articles prepared for the Mexico, but I have Popular Front ready to go.
okay? I would say that we go with the stuff that is prepared first, then, and then we can
Okay.
like dig around a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. I have both prepared. So I'm gonna share my screen and we're gonna look at Popular Front.
All right, man.
So what do you think the whole situation right now with the IDF bombing Hezbollah targets not too long ago?
Man, it is fucked up, and I know that is actually very simplistic to say. And I just wish that we could actually get more answers about October 7th. Because one thing that people seem to actually forget is that Israel actually had information about October 7th. They were actually warned by both Turkey and Egypt of a imminent attack on their borders, but they actually did not act upon it. And not only that, there was actually a delay in the alarm in what is arguably one of the most fortified borders in the world. So now it is very suspicious, and I think that right now the Israeli government is like in a law like foresight. It is
Mm.
actually taking too many decisions on the short term that it is bound in the long term to actually lead to a full frontal war throughout the Middle East.
Yeah.
Like that is the worst case scenario, a direct war in between Iran and Israel. Granted,
So
it is unlikely just because of like the buffer zones that is in between them.
mhm. I think we mentioned this last time, but do you think maybe the Russian-Ukrainian conflict could decide also the status of this conflict, or do you think they're separate?
That's actually an
Because
interesting question.
I personally think if Russia wins the conflict, there might be more of a possibility that Palestine can, in a sense, be protected.
Hmm. To be honest, fundamentally, I don't know how to
Because
answer. I would
Ukraine is
say
not, yeah, Ukraine is not pro Palestine.
no, yeah, like this does kind of seem like a conflict of like two different blocks, which is like the bloc of like the more liberal countries, Western friendly nations against like you could call it the alternative front, like the anti-imperialist, in quotation. I will
So
say that no, I don't think that, for example, the Ukrainian and Russian conflict and the Israeli conflict are actually that connected, if I say
yeah, they
so.
seem pretty separate. They seem pretty separate. They seem worlds apart.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so let's get into what Popular Front has posted. It says the IDF carried out a massive wave of airstrikes in Lebanon today, with the Lebanese health ministry claiming that at least 492 people have been killed. The IDF claimed the strikes targeted 1,300 Hezbollah sites built up since the 2006 war. 35
Hmm.
children and 58 women have been reported amongst the dead, with over 1,600 wounded. Crazy, crazy.
It is insane. It is absolutely insane. And did you see like the whole like pager situation like the way that Israel was actually able to like tamper with like these files and tamper pagers by injecting them like some sort of like explosive silicon that led them to explode at high temperatures.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
yeah,
that is insane,
that is
and I
wild,
think
man.
that is absolutely insane.
That was a Taiwanese company, right? That's the Mossad infiltrated, or am I making that up?
No, no, yeah, they actually shipped from Taiwan, and the Mossad somehow was actually able to intercept the shipments, and they were able to like do whatever fuckery they were doing. I think that the way they worked is that they injected like a silicon that exploded when temperatures increased.
Bro, that is wild. Wow.
It is extremely wild. Several of like the Lebanese like members of Hezbollah actually ended up becoming blind, and even some of them actually lost their dick. Like they're castrated.
Bro,
Yeah, I do not wish that upon anyone. By the way, you know,
yeah, no, no.
mind you,
Oh yeah.
that Lebanon started this conflict. I do need
What
to point out.
you? Oh, they started it.
Yeah, like this all started because Lebanon actually like bombarded territories in northern Israel with missiles.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't think anyone died, but they actually did like infrastructure damage.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I think the oh, it's just so hard to kind of give like a philosophical take with these kind of conflicts whenever um they're just so out of hand, right? They seem so out of hand. And um I'm afraid that I don't know how much conflicts there is right now. Maybe like a couple hundred, right? Maybe 100 and something.
Yeah, I,
Current
I'm gonna
conflicts.
give I'm gonna give like a hot take. Is that fundamentally speaking, I don't really care about like Israel and Palestine as two entities. Like they say in Spanish, me la suda. You
Mm.
know, Israel absolutely like committing war crimes and crimes against humanity. They're burning down homes of like family people and condemning them to like abject poverty and homelessness. Big rapes of like Palestinian prisoners, probably many of them actually being innocent. That is absolutely disgusting. And that the fact that October 7th was, they probably actually had the warning about that, but just let it happen.
Mm.
At the same time, we do have reports that Hamas did in fact like torture like hostages, did actually like rape hostages, and did actually like kill like innocent people. And fundamentally speaking, like this whole conflict could actually end if Hamas actually surrendered and actually released the hostages. You know, like
Those yeah, there was the bodies of hostages were released, right? But the bodies, they weren't alive.
no, yeah. Several of the hostages, I think, were executed. Some of them were actually released, but with exchange of prisoners. And the problem is that Hamas is asking, I think, around 1,000 Palestinian prisoners for every hostage, which is absolutely insane. You know,
What? Yeah. What? What three conflicts or situations are you looking at in the world right now, or like that you perceive as interesting, or that you're most aware about? Which one do you think you resonate with? Because I will say for sure the Ukraine Russian conflict, I've had interest in it for a long time.
yeah.
Um, Obviously about the border conflict, which I think is a war. I think it's a war.
Mm,
And thirdly, I would say I'm very interested in just I've been very interested in Africa, like specifically the genocide of the pygmies and what's going on in Burkina Faso.
yeah, absolutely.
What are
Well,
yours?
when you say conflicts, doesn't necessarily have to be like open war conflicts, or can it be like political conflicts too?
It can be political strife.
Okay, like things that, for example, like connect to me the most, for example, it will be obviously like the Venezuelan situation. That will actually be like one of the main ones, and how that actually that resonates with like the concepts of Latin American politics and also like Spanish politics. Now, if you were to ask me what are the conflicts that are more likely to lead to a situation in which things actually get out of hand, I don't think Israel and Palestine is one of them. I think that Iran does not actually want to enter into a direct conflict with Israel. They do not have the capacity for it. They do not have the allies. Saudi Arabia is actually pretty much a de facto ally of Israel. There's nothing to be gained out of that, you know.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
Now,
Uh,
there is possible reports that the Iranians might actually be developing like nuclear weaponry, and I think we know how that might actually end up going on.
yeah, I
But
think.
realistically speaking, the things that actually might actually lead to a situation where things hit the fan, will
Mhm.
be Ukraine, India, Pakistan, and Taiwan. I think those are like the three main hot points that we need to observe.
Yeah, I personally think those are that's incredibly accurate, and I that they're going to be hotspots, and I think mass migration is going to be fluid or gas or energy in in those conflicts, because mass migration is just going to mean a stimulated economy, like maybe an economy on cocaine, but also a lot of foreign entities in conflicts. So you're gonna have people that are from South America fighting in a North American army. You're gonna have people in North Americans fighting in South American armies. You already have North Americans fighting in European armies, which has always happened. It's always happened. But I'm just saying. um, let's keep going. Let's keep going on Popular Front to see what else is going down. I know we have this interesting clip right here. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, let's see. There we go. This is Russian Chechnya. Oh my fucking god.
The Chechen government has released a new propaganda video showing Tesla Cybertrucks with heavy machine guns mounted to the beds, claiming they've been deployed to Ukraine. The new Toyotas.
I hate this timeline, man. Fuck me, man. This is so
Crazy,
fucking
crazy times.
retarded. Man, the
Crazy
Cybertrucks are
times.
not even that good. Holy shit. Oh my god.
Yeah.
You,
Do you remember
just
Deadliest
be
Warrior?
normal. Just be normal and get a fucking Toyota like everyone
I know,
else.
right? Just
God.
yeah, that's a lot of money, man. That's a lot of money.
Where did they even get those Cybertrucks?
They say
This
they're claiming that they've been deployed to Ukraine. Wow, that is wild. I have no comment.
wait,
No comment.
so Chechnya is actually fighting with Ukraine or Russia? I'm asking.
I believe they're on the Russian side,
Okay, that makes sense.
but you might have some Chechens in the fighting for Ukraine. Yeah, I would say that you would have a mixture of everything.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, but I think in this case it's pro-Russian.
All right. I mean, I wonder, like, Cybertrucks for civilian use sucks. Like they're extremely overhyped. I do like the design. They're kind of like synthwave, cyberwave. The whole cyberpunk aesthetics. But I do wonder, like, are they actually good for like warfare? Was Elon Musk making the right decision all this time?
I guess, I guess he looked at Toyota and was inspired, right? He's
I mean, the thing with Toyota is that Toyotas, they'll last forever. You know.
They will, yeah, yeah. They'll go through. Yeah, dude. You want to see a little bit of I don't know if this is Mexico. No, this is Turkey. Come on,
Yeah,
no, this is Turkey.
same shit. We don't want either of them.
This looks like Mexico. Come on, this looks like
You know,
oh no, Turkey.
like the Mexicans, they got the tacos. The Turkish have like the kebabs. It's like just carbs with meat. Same death.
So yeah, let's get into Mexico stuff. Let's get into Mexico stuff.
All right, let's see. Have we watching a Dragon Ball episode?
we're gonna see a taco stand dedicated to Dragon Ball Z.
Man, I want to go to one of those, man. I don't know,
Dude,
man. Something about Hispanics in Dragon Ball, man. It's kind of trippy.
I think Hispanics have a problem with Dragon Ball Z. They have a fetish.
It is fetish. I mean, I
It's a
like
fetish.
Dragon Ball, but
I
all right.
like it. Yeah, yeah. This is kind of crazy. This tripped me out, man. This can you see my screen?
Let's see. No, I cannot see it yet. Okay, wait a
Okay.
second. There we go.
Okay, weapons found on Mexico side of border. Border patrol alert. Oh wow.
Oh my god.
Warns of 4 rocket-propelled grenades, 8 IEDs found. They were located on the Mexican side of the southern border near Arizona. And yeah, wild.
Yeah, no, Mexico's fucked, man. I don't know how to tell you.
There are military-grade weapons being found on the Mexican side near Ajo, Arizona. Rocket-propelled grenades and 8 improvised explosive devices.
Ooh, yeah. Forget it. You're not gonna defeat it, make cartels, man.
What do you
I'm.
mean? I think doesn't the US apply it?
Uh, I don't think inherently. I think it's rather, for example, that because America has a lot of weapons, it's very easy to get that. It's also pretty easy to like, you know, access a black market. So a lot like the Mexico cartels, they have the contacts in order to like able to like supply themselves.
No, I agree. I think uh I don't know, man. I think this is do you remember whenever they found the I think it was a javelin in under the Mexican cartel? And it was meant for Ukraine, but it ended up in Mexico. Do you remember that?
No, what the
Bro, we gotta find that. That was wild. We cannot believe it.
fuck? Oh my god, yeah, man. I'm sorry, man, but the Mexican cartels, you cannot fuck with that shit. Especially when I read like the words IEDs, improvised explosive devices. Man, like the
Uh-huh.
American army was getting absolutely decimated because of the IEDs while they were in Iraq. They are extremely lethal and an absolute total nightmare just because of how easy they are to make and how easy it is to transport them around. They kill
Sure.
so many people. Like it's crazy. It's like we when we observe war, we think of like the F-36, F-35, or like the new modern tanks. But it seems like it is the small things, like the drones and the IEDs, that are actually making the differences in regards to who is going to win the conflict.
No, no, for sure. Can you see my screen?
I cannot see it right now. But yeah, like that's why like the Bukele approach in Salvador, I don't think it would be applicable to Mexico, just because the cartels, they're armed to the teeth. You know, it's
Yeah.
they're armed to the teeth. It's you could like try to go to open war with them, but there's gonna be so many deaths, and it's gonna be so expensive that at some moment maybe like the only thing that you can do would be to actually like negotiate. Like amnesty
Yeah.
might be the only option.
Okay, I'm gonna start sharing my screen, and this is what I was talking about. This is wild. I cannot believe this.
Either that, or we nuke northern Mexico.
What's up?
We nuke northern Mexico.
Hey, that's us. That's us. It's pretty much us. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, let's
Blin,
go down.
que en teoría se vende únicamente al ejército y ha sido utilizado durante la invasión a Ucrania, por ejemplo. En el mercado negro, esa arma que lleva a su derecha, la otra es una K-47, a la derecha lleva esta arma que cuesta en el mercado negro unos entre 20,000 y 60,000 dólares. 20,000 y 60,000 dólares y cada disparo cuesta aproximadamente 30,000 dólares. El hombre que aparece en el video también porta un chaleco antibalas con las imágenes bordadas de un escorpión, un águila, un ave fénix, un triángulo con las palabras respeto, lealtad, disciplina y las siglas CDG al centro junto con el número 19. Alrededor se ve un círculo que dice valentía, fuerza e inmortalidad. Este es el javelin, usado, para que lo vea operar, usado durante un entrenamiento de fuerzas estadounidenses.
Wild, huh?
That's Jesus fucking Christ! Like someone in the Pentagon is about to get hanged. Nah, who are we kidding? They'll probably give him a promotion.
Yo, so I have a story here, and this is something that happened here in New Mexico.
Ooh, that hits close. Huh?
Ooh, drama.
Oh man, I love me some drama. Let's see. What happened? The fucking aliens finally arrive.
Do you see my screen?
I cannot see the screen, but let's. Okay, there we go. Oh my fucking
Nice.
god. This is not new.
Operations in progress to crack down on human trafficking along the New Mexico border. State governor, along with state police, other local and federal agencies, talk about what's being done.
Typical, right? Human smuggling in New Mexico. Typical.
Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham says the main goal of this operation was to stop organized crime and save migrant lives.
A 12-day operation in August led to 91 rescues, 33 stash house busts, and 735 traffic stops.
This is in Santa Fe, not
Governor
Albuquerque.
Michelle
Whoa.
Lujan Grisham.
The whole point here is raising awareness, get jurisdictions to work together like they did in this operation.
Roughly 20 different agencies were involved in Operation Disruption, targeting human trafficking and organized crime in Doña Ana and Luna counties.
I want to make it very clear that our goal is to disrupt the cartels and let them know that New Mexico is not open for business.
State police who led the operation says the priority, saving migrant lives.
Biggest focus was on the Sunland Park and Santa Teresa areas, where we had a high number of migrant deaths.
One female was in critical condition with an internal temperature of 105 degrees.
State police and Border Patrol were able to save that woman and say because of the operation.
We have seen an 89% decrease in deaths. We have seen a 355% increase in rescues. And we have seen a 28% increase in encounters and a 47% decrease in gotaways.
District Attorney Sam Bregman says operation.
Anyways, what do you think about that?
Okay, I do have a question. When we're talking about human trafficking, are we talking about like the business of the cuchotes? You know, like the people who they guide like illegal immigrants into the states, into the borders, and the different routes, or does it also include people who are actually being kidnapped and then being transported so they can be used for either forced labor or sexual slavery?
Mm-hmm.
I will assume it's using both, right?
I'm assuming yes.
But
this could be a mixture of everything. It could be a mixture of those. Yeah, there could be a few PhDs in there too. You know, maybe.
I mean, this is a old business. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Do you call them like coyotes in Mexico, if I'm not mistaken? And we
Yeah.
actually have that same situation. It's even worse here in Europe because it actually kind of reminds me of like how, for example, look like refugees or like illegal migrants, they cross the Mediterranean through boats. They're actually like given to them, but like this, like these human traffickers, who put them like in this terrible situation that are extremely risky, and many of them actually end up like drowning, especially if there's
Mhm.
like a storm.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's I don't know what to tell you about this, but this is actually not new. And
Yeah.
also like
On you.
there's the whole this is also like sexual slavery. I mean, I remember like when I was driving in Albuquerque, a very common sight was actually like the Asian massage parlors.
Hmm.
Yeah, like I bet a lot like those girls working there, they're not in there in the best conditions. A lot
Sure.
of
Yeah.
them are
Yeah.
also trafficked. And
Sure.
they kind of
Yeah.
like the model, they lure them in with like, come to America, you'll get a nice job, you make a lot of money, you'll be able to help your family, yada, yada, yada. They arrive to America, they take away their passports or whatever identity, and now they're like forced to pay with them. They have to pay their loans, their debts with interest.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's
And they
something
get the
that,
bare minimum just to stay.
mind you, like, I do hope like the New Mexican government actually passes more policies to like crack down on that because that shit is terrible.
Yeah. Yeah. I think what, even though it's nothing new, I do think it's a same story, different pen. Like this is a different kind of uh migration crisis that's happening. Like it feels different. The vibe is off. It's not so much about work anymore. Like it is, it's for economic opportunity, but
Yeah.
not 100%. Um so I it just seems to me that New Mexico is in the way of, it's going to be sandwiched between American force and Mexican cartel because we're on the border.
No, absolutely. You know,
Yeah.
and from my understanding is that like some towns, like even in Oklahoma and also Colorado, have actually been having issues with like some gang-related organization that actually come from South
Yeah.
America. And if that is the case, then it's just a matter of time before that gets out of control. Because
Yeah.
you need to get that in control, fundamentally speaking.
Yeah. Yeah. They
And I,
infiltrated
oh,
native reservations.
I also think that, for example, like there's some Venezuelan groups, and there, one of them is famous, El Tren de Aragua.
Yeah. Tren de
Have you
Aragua.
ever heard of? Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know the exact details of them. I think they finally arrested them, but it's well, it's gonna get worse, especially with the whole Venezuelan situation,
Yeah.
because I do expect a lot more Venezuelan getting out of the country and arriving.
Hmm.
Right now, being a Venezuelan sucks. So,
Yeah. It sucks. But hey, man, you have a Russian Chinese girlfriend.
I mean, I'm Venezuelan, but I'm also Spanish. Like, hey, I'm very privileged. Like I recognize that.
Yeah. Sure.
Because a lot of millions of Venezuelans, they actually, I got out of Venezuela in a plane, but many people had to actually like walk in the jungle.
Yeah. 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 I met a lot of people that had to cross the Darien.
Oh fuck, yeah, no, that is, and that's really always the messy part about like this sort of like mass migrations episodes because there's going to be human trafficking. There's going to be people taking advantage of them. Robbery is normal. Sexual slavery happens a lot. Uh, Being exposed to nature in that way, especially in the jungle, if it's a rainy season, or maybe you're going through a winter season in the States, you have no place to like shelter yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard.
Yeah. Yeah. They
It,
the stories that I heard, because I know a few. I actually know a lot of people, but that have done this journey. And oh man, the stories that they say that like there's children left dead along the way. They
Yeah.
find like dead children, dead people on the along the way. Um, it's people smashed up on rocks. People that have drowned. Um, it, I don't know, man. Like, I mean, I get it, right? I get it. Like, I personally think your ancestors would be ashamed of you if you have not crossed one border in your life. I think they would be
uh,
ashamed of you. They'd be like, "You privileged prick." He's like, so
uh,
yeah, it's a very serious situation, you know. Um,
absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. I mean, we do live in a world in which, to be honest, if you were actually, I would say so, like if you were actually able to like born in the place and work in the same place that you were born, you're lucky, you know,
yeah,
if
yeah,
you're
yeah,
actually able to do that. And it's gonna
yeah.
be harder nowadays just because of like the shift of globalization of our globalized economy, you know,
Hmm.
in which, if you want to make it, be prepared to move.
Yeah, yeah. Um, let's talk a little bit about what's going on in a specific situation in Mexico.
All right.
It's
Before
something.
anything,
No, go for it.
uh, I'm gonna get some water, okay?
Go for it. I'll just
Okay,
pull the
you
other cord.
yeah, just entertain them, sing them something, take out your shirt or something. I don't know. You figure it out.
I'm gonna sing. Never mind. I won't say it.
Oh, I've heard of that story.
Oh yeah, can you see it?
Yeah. Ugh. Oh my god.
So, what happened to Mexico's 43 missing students? Devastated families demand answers 10 years after pupils vanished.
I remember that
So,
case.
yeah, this was the college students who vanished attending the rural normal school at Ayotzinapa and Iguala, a town in the Pacific coast of state of Guerrero. I do not know where that's at. And were attacked by security forces tied to Guerreros Unidos, a local drug gang, on September 16, 2014. Yeah, 10 years. Wow.
Oh my god.
Do you see AMLO's name right there?
That fucker. Yeah.
Oh, he said he promised, right? He promised to release the information related to the kidnappings and nothing.
Yeah, no, like that's just how it goes.
This is wild, man. That's a lot of students.
Yeah, taking the bus in South America is nightmare. No.
The students were traveling in 5 buses to Mexico City to attend the anniversary of almost 300 people who were massacred at a student protest in 1968. Nothing new, Mexico. The administration of Peña Nieto at the time said the students were mistaken for members. Mistaken. For how can you mistake students for a rival gang? They said that the gang burned their bodies in a fire and dumped their bodies in a river.
Jesus
Wow,
fucking Christ.
that is wild.
God, that is such a senseless violence. Ugh.
Yeah, I mean, Mexico is wild, yo. Mexico's wild.
To be honest, I don't really have much of a comment.
Yeah.
I mean, like there's like sort of like and I was being serious about like the whole like taking the bus in South America's nightmare because you are pretty much open to like episodes like those. You know, like
No, I agree.
there was a case, for example, in Venezuela, in which a bus was actually stopped by a gang, and you know everyone got robbed, and like all of the women actually got raped at the side of the road. You know,
No, that
like
yeah, yeah.
like it's insane.
No, I think what is it? Feminicidio, right?
Femicidio,
Feminicide. Yeah,
femicide, yeah.
that's definitely the realest thing, man, especially in those kind of countries. It is despicable the things they do to half the species. You know that's women are half the species, right?
Yeah,
So like
it's
it's like dude, that's
it's yeah, you know. And I wish I could pinpoint like what is actually like I don't know, like why do you think Mexico is like this? You know? Like
they're
what do you
probably
think?
like that. I don't think it's so much machismo because I think that's what people would say. But I just think they just have that kind of culture, you know. They're obviously drawn to death in a different way, drawn to humiliation. They're drawn into mutilation of the body.
Hmm.
They're drawn to death in general. Um, so let's not forget they had the Aztecs, you know,
Yeah.
who weren't that peaceful.
Oh no.
They weren't
Yeah.
that peaceful.
Good thing that the Spanish came there to like, you know, put some order against them, but
Do you remember?
we
Hey,
we
did you ever?
we did our best. We did our best.
Hey, bro, y'all came with a little bit. Hey, I don't. Y'all won on home field advantage. I ain't saying nothing. y'all came to our territory. We had the home field advantage, and we still lost. Kudos, putos, putos.
Bro, have you seen your skin? You probably have Spanish ancestry. Your
Bro,
ancestors were the ones.
I am Taromara. I have Taromara blood.
What is that?
Taromara are the Raramuri people from northern Chihuahua, northern Mexico.
Ah, shit. I mean,
Who,
keep
yeah,
in
who would
mind,
have
you
known?
know.
Right? Who would have known?
I mean, there was a lot of mestizaje too. Like that's the thing,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. No, most likely, most likely. I probably my great abuelo or abuela was probably from Sevilla, Spain.
Oh shit, you're Andalou.
I don't know.
Oh, dude, Andalusia is beautiful. I've been there. We need to go.
We will soon. Let's. How much time do you have? Do you have 15 minutes?
No, yeah, man, I can keep going. Let's keep going.
Okay, let's go for
But
another 20 minutes.
yeah, I actually wanted to talk because I think that it is one of the challenges of South American, but also Spanish culture. You can call it like the Hispanic culture. And it's that, okay, and I'm going to sound like an oldie conservative guy, you know, uh, for a change. And
Sure.
it's that I think our culture falls a lot into the concept of la picaresca, you know, the picaresque, which is that, you know, like the character that lies and cheats in as a way of survival, finding ways of like not doing the job, but rather like circumnavigating the system, you know. Whereas making fun of like the concept of following an institutional order, you know, and the concept of actually being uh, honest in regards to like your treatments to like higher authorities. Eh, One example of this, for example, and it is a very entertaining show. It's actually Casa de Papel. You've ever heard of it?
Yeah.
With
I know what it is. It's House of. Yeah, yeah, I know what it is. It's about the
It
prison
is
escape or the bank robbery.
it was a bank robbery in Spain. You know, it is a Spanish show. It was actually very popular, but it got overtaken by Squid Games. And it is a very entertaining show because it's about like this group of like these people who are like outside of the margin of society, who are about to like rob a bank, and they want to make money, rob the money so they can actually live off of it. It's entertaining. The characters are amazing. Berlin, the character is literally me for real. But is that a message that we actually want to send to our society? You know, in which, for example, that the good guys are actually, the ones who actually like circumnavigate the system, the ones who actually cheat the system and actually steal from it. And there's actually like quotes, in the show saying like, "We the robbers, nosotros los ladrones, we're the ones who actually live life to the fullest." Whereas like the
Hmm.
police are actually seen as like like squared, uh, this is squared individuals, incompetent, boors who pretty much don't believe in what they do, so to speak. Or another like movie that I'm thinking about is like I think it's called El Señor de los Cielos. It kind of like
Hmm.
follows a paradigm that's similar to that. Like this character whose name is Angelito. You know,
Hmm.
at the beginning he's like working in a factory, being honest and everything, but he actually like joins. Yeah,
Be
he
faithful.
actually
Just
starts.
being faithful. He
But
started
then he
cheating on his
actually
lady and selling bricks.
he's actually very young, you know, like
Mhm.
barely finishing high school. But then he actually joined like this gang that actually engaged in robbery. And you actually notice, for example, that his life is actually improving because of that. Like yeah, he went to jail once or twice, but he actually has his gangs of like, gypsies, who they go and rob, and the robberies become even bigger, and he engaged on like money laundering and everything. And he gets like the hot Latina girlfriend, a very nice house. He's now associated with like the criminal organization, and he
Mhm.
makes fun of the police. Like you, the police, are paid misery to like protect like the interests of like like the people who own the system, where I'm actually living the way
Yeah.
that you should live.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Can you build a nation with that mentality? Is that what we want? Is that what we want to teach people?
You're right. Latin America has that influence. You mentioned Señor de los Cielos. Um, and just to name, Narcos. Obviously, that's a big one, right? Narcos Mexico, right? On Netflix.
Yeah,
It's the music. It's so different, man. It's so archaic. It's so esoteric. It's so. Have you ever seen the YouTube video where this guy was talking about how he did medicine, he did like a psychedelic medicine, and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
he said that human sacrifice made sense. so, so
I need
like
to take out my cross.
no, it made sense in the way that the cost of obtaining knowledge can be so much as human sacrifice. um, and that happens everywhere in our history. It would take sacrifice to save your fellow infantrymen. It would take
Mm.
sacrifice to save your family.
Yeah,
Everything. There's small. You know what I'm talking about, right?
yeah, 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 absolutely.
So like maybe the Aztecs, as crazy as that is, the human sacrifice, or everywhere in the world, because everyone did human sacrificing. Um, maybe they just perceived it as the access to knowledge, the access to God, and that the
Mm.
only thing, it wasn't going to be a rabbit, it wasn't going to be an animal, it had to be a human because that it was valuable, you know.
Yeah, I get the point, but the problem is that a lot of time the Aztecs were not like volunteering to actually become like sacrifice.
Yeah,
a lot of
they were
times they were
getting
like,
other people.
all
They were
right,
getting other people. Yeah,
yeah, which is pretty cheap, you
yeah.
know, like, and it's actually part of the reason why a lot like the Mexicas
Hmm.
actually ended up like joining the Spaniards
Yeah,
in
yeah,
order to like overthrow the Aztecs because they were
yeah,
getting actually tired.
yeah. That's that's why like whenever you made the joke where it's like, yeah, we brought Christianity to you fuckers.
We tried to bring some fucking order.
Dude, y'all were just escaping the coming inflation of Spain, bro. They saw thousands of years into the future, and they're like, "Fuck that, we're leaving."
Oh man.
No, but um, I, I agree, man. I just think that like the tribes of North America and South America uh were battling within each other. Um, they were taking each other into slavery. They were genociding each other. There's so much genocide that happens that's not recorded in our history because they don't have paper
Absolutely.
and pen. Yeah, so um, it it just happened to be that globalization happens whenever you know, not whenever Cristobal Colon crossed the sea. It happened whenever the person crossed the river into that other person's side of the river. That's whenever
Mm.
globalization first started happening, you know. After that, it just started happening quick, 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 quick. And that,
Guys,
yeah, the consequence of globalization has become intertwined wars, proxy wars, uh, Mexico fucking cartels infiltrating Ecuadorian sovereignty. Like, dude, Ecuador has nothing to do with that, but yet they're being infiltrated. You know, they're being invaded by Mexican cartels.
no, yeah, yeah. Ecuador is another like important front in that regards because it's the same situation
Yeah, and
because
that's natives
they
versus
car-
natives. You know.
no, yeah, absolutely. Which is why I've always been kind of critical of like some of like the South American left because with the whole dynamic and paradigm of like anti-imperialism and anti-colonialism, but what is more colonialism in itself than, for example, like that artificial identity that you've created out of thin air, like there was no country called like Colombia, there was no country called Venezuela, or there was no thing called like Argentina.
Hmm.
Those were just completely artificial. There's this movie, for example, that like Werner Herzog.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Like
Brilliant.
the
Brilliant. Yeah,
he's brilliant. I love him.
yeah.
But he actually did this movie, Fitzgeraldo. Man, it's one of those movies that you watch it, you don't think too much about it, but after a while it grows on you. And one of the lines is actually interesting, and it's that the public education that they were having in Peru, they were teaching like the kids, like Peru, 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 the identity and the nationality, and they were saying, it's like in one or two generations they already identify themselves as Peruvians,
Hmm.
you know, just to see like how easy it is to actually like you know to like mold that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hey, it's not gonna work with me. Yeah, I'll say fuck you to everyone, dude.
Bro, when New Mexico gets annexed by Texas, your kids are gonna be like, don't mess with Texas.
Hey man, the Mexican passport is just for the future, bro. It's for the future. The way it's looking over here, man.
The only future I see for America is if you become president.
Whoa, dude. You know who would be better in Congress than fucking what we have now
Who?
is the influencers, Rogan, Malice.
No, no, no.
No, but it'd be at least there would be a fighting chance. We would have a fighting chance.
Bro, we already have. Trump is a fucking celebrity, man. You know, celebrities are influencers when you think about it. It's not
Yeah.
that different. Yeah. You
No,
know,
no, I totally agree. Totally agree.
you know, I'm saying because it's like I think you will be a good president because you know that you don't know. You know,
Mhm.
and I think that you actually have to like the wisdom and the foresight necessary to actually like choose people who know in their area,
Yeah.
and that could actually lead to actually a situation in which finally the government is actually run by technocrats. And I know that it is an ugly word because you put in the word technocrat and you think like the the Belgium, the Brussels technocrat, they're gonna put the globalization into the front gaze.
Yeah. No, no, totally. You become, yeah. Dude, I always said this. I don't know if you can attest to this because were you in the United States post 9/11 or like at 9/11?
No, no, I was not. Well, I was actually. I mean, when 9/11 happened, I was 3 years old, so I don't really have much memories.
Okay. Yeah, I was in third grade when 9/11 happened. And
Hmm.
bro, I remember being super interested like in politics and geopolitics and wars and conflicts like super young. Um I remember that conservatives had the upper hand at one point, right?
Hmm.
During my time, right? I know it shifted throughout the years. I fucking get that, but at that time it was the Republicans, and they fucking war on terror, all this bullshit, dude, of like the weapons of mass destruction and debates. Should
Yeah,
we
yeah.
invade Iraq? Should we not invade Iraq? Um, and just all kinds of stuff going on in the air, right? A lot of tension, and
Yeah, yeah.
and I feel as if, bro, it's like it's obvious that this is happening right now because the liberals have the upper hand. If
Hmm.
the conservatives would have been gentle during post 9/11, it it could have been more equal. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
Like they were like the Republicans were so ignorant, so hateful, they were so bigoted that they could have
Hmm.
toned it down.
I don't know, man, because I think that fundamentally speaking, the objective of political parties is to maintain themselves, to win the elections, gain the population, and remember, like the whole Patriot Act
Mhm.
was passed with also a majority of the Democrats. The Iraq resolution also passed with a majority of Democrats. And the reason that happened is because voting against those laws at the moment will have been a political suicide in
Mhm.
those instances, or at least it was perceived as a political suicide, which kind of like demonstrates a little bit like what was the zeitgeist in that situation, like what was like the collective thinking of the American, because they attacked your land, they killed 3,000 of your citizens, and people just want revenge. People want answers, you know. And I think that it will have been the same with both Democrats or Republicans.
No, I'm hearing you, man. I forgot to plug in my computer. It's good though.
All right, all right.
It just gave me the warning, you know.
Hey.
Let me just plug this in real quick. All right, we're good.
Awesome. Perfect.
So, j- let's touch on some more topics, man. What did you want to talk about? Anything or bring up anything specific?
I cannot think of anything right now. except like maybe like UFOs, but that's about it. You know.
Cool. Let's see what there is in the news regarding UFOs on YouTube.
Look up, for example, like this article that appears on CTV News. Image release of mysterious object shot down over Yukon in 2023. I actually found it on the
Okay.
Reddit page of UFO.
CTV. Oh, okay. I got it. Let's open
Yes,
it up.
man.
Crazy.
I know, man. Oh my god, now we have fucking aliens, man.
Let
Oh my god.
me know if you can see my screen.
Not yet. Let's see. Yeah, I've been going kind of crazy on like the whole UFO situation.
Can you see it?
Yeah, there we go. Image release of mysterious UFO shut down over Yukon. That is, if I live, Alaska, 2023. Yeah, there we go.
It says an
Nice.
image of the identified object. Oh shit.
Yeah.
Shot down over Canada's Yukon territory in February 2023 has been attained by CTV News. Released through a Canadian Freedom of Information request, the grainy image appears to be a photocopy of an email printout.
Damn. Rush it down.
A
A
US,
US F.
yeah,
Do you want to read it or should I read it?
go for it.
A US F 22 fighter jet shot down the object on February 11, 2023, shortly after it entered Canadian airspace in the Yukon Territory, which bordered Alaska. It was one of three unidentified aerial objects blasted out of the sky that month following the high profile February 4, 2023 downing of an apparent Chinese surveillance balloon. Shot down over Alaska at Yukon Lake Huron between February 10 and 12, 2023. The three objects were reportedly much smaller than the towering Chinese balloon. At the
Wow.
time, officials described the Yukon object as a suspected balloon that was cylindrical in shape. A reported Pentagon memo said it appeared to be a small, metallic balloon with a tethered payload below it. Released as part of the Freedom Information Request package, an email from a Canadian Brigadier General offered what they describe as the best description that we have of the Yukon object. Visual, a cylindrical object, they wrote in February 11, 2023. Top quarter is metallic, remainder white, 20-foot wire hanging below with package of some sort suspended from it.
That is crazy. Let's
I
look up
know.
some stuff on YouTube about it.
Yeah. Oh, man. I mean, oh, by the way, this is not the crazy stuff. Look up, what is his name? U.S. Coronel Nell UAP aliens. Oh, this one is gonna blow up your mind.
Which one is it?
Come on. Let's see, let's see. Bro, okay, you have to look up. You look on YouTube. Retired
Okay.
U.S. Army Colonel Carl E. Neal.
Carl E.
You're
Neal.
gonna, yeah, it's gonna blow your fucking mind.
Is it about UFOs or?
UFOs, or what they want to call it nowadays, UAPs.
So it's retired U.S. Army.
Carl, written with a K, E. Neal. This one is gonna blow your mind, man.
Bro, Is it where he's talking to the court or?
Is his name Carl Neal? He's actually talking to like what is it called, like a business meeting, like a group. Let me see if I can find it myself.
Let me screen share it so you can tell me if I'm doing it right.
For me, Carl E. Neal. Okay, it's Carl. Look up Carl E. Neal. That is like his full name.
So Karl.
And then the middle name is E.
E.
And the last name is Nell. UFO. And look up like the short. Senior US from SALT. Because the first video is 20 minutes. No, here. You have it there in the second video.
Second video?
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. This one?
Yeah.
Non-human intelligence has been interacting with humanity. This interaction is not new and it's been ongoing. And there are unelected people in the government that are aware of that. There's zero doubt. Non-human intelligence exists. Non-human intelligence has been interacting with humanity. This interaction is not new and it's been ongoing. And there are unelected people in the government that are aware of that. There's zero doubt.
Jeez. There you go.
That's crazy.
That's insane. Yeah, and this guy is a colonel for like the American Army, former, who also has a lot of like experience like within like the aeronautic industry. Oh, that's
Which
another
one's this?
important one. Look it
Yeah,
up.
let's look
Put
at
it. Who is this guy?
You had said that there has been harmful activity or aggressive activity. Has any of the activity been aggressive, been hostile in your reports?
I know of multiple colleagues of mine that got physically injured, and the activity. And I got
by UAPs or by people within the federal government.
Both.
Okay, so there has been activity
Crazy.
by alien or non-human technology and or beings that has caused harm to humans.
I can't get into the specifics in an open environment, but at least the activity that I personally witnessed, and I have to be very careful here because they tell you never to acknowledge tradecraft, right? So what I personally witnessed myself and my wife was very disturbing.
At one point, you had said that they're
wild, man.
That is David Grush. He's actually one of the many, I believe, like Pentagon agents, who actually has been one of the whistleblowers of like the whole like American government covering of UAPs programs and like UFO reverse engineering programs.
Yeah. Dude.
This is this one really actually might be like a balloon, to be honest.
This one?
Bigger, yeah, because if it was alien, I don't think we'll be able to shut it down. That's the thing.
Oh yeah, you're right. Oh, did Russia shoot down a UFO? Russia's like, what the fuck you say?
Yeah.
Bro, Russia don't give a fuck, bro. Don't fucking try anything.
I know.
Dude, that is remarkable. Dude, what do you think? What do you think are their intentions? What do you think are the what do you think?
This is just like total speculation, because I'm also even open to the idea that this could just all be like, the government trying to fool us but I don't know, man. I mean, the theory that I am actually like most resonating with is the idea that you know that, for example, like we have like indigenous groups that are completely like contactless, like the Sentinels and like the coast of India, or like the different indigenous groups very deep with like the South American jungles that are completely isolated from civilization, from modern society, and they just keep their ways. And we observe them with drones, and we observe them because they are us from times of like hunter gatherers, and we observe like their cultures or how they behave. It would be interesting, for example, the idea that maybe like if there are in fact these entities among us, then maybe they're just observing us like we will observe like an animal.
Do you think they would mean harm?
I don't think necessarily harm. I think they are most likely amoral. They don't think too much about us.
Amoral.
Amoral, exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is
I'm gonna look up something. Let me see which indigenous tribes have alien contact. I personally think they want to make us into slaves.
man. I was kind of pessimistic.
I wish it was utopia, but I don't think so.
Oh man.
We're gonna end up fucking mining shit, bro. Me and you for aliens. They're gonna give us a serial code and all that shit, bro, that they can scan when we enter into the work.
Maybe that's like the whole like Amazon warehouses is just the prototype of that.
Dude, that's hilarious. It says these extraterrestrials are acknowledged by many indigenous groups as relatives or even ancestors. The fact that the existence of UAPs and potentially extraterrestrials is breaking news is more proof that indigenous erasure is real. Why? Because indigenous communities around the globe have been aware of the existence of UAPs for thousands of years and kept record of these encounters through oral tradition and artwork. Yes, we would know that. We both know that, right, Pedro? The Hopis say that their first home was in the Pleiades constellation. We have heard that. Chuhokon, I don't know how to say it. The Cree Nation has legends that their ancestors arrived on Earth as spirits from the stars. Traditionally, the Zuni also believe they're related to a kind of star people, as do the Lakota.
The Lakota have star knowledge that we have passed down throughout the generations, beginning with the ancient ones. According to our belief system, each Lakota infant is born with a spirit from a star or Wanagi. When we die, our Wanagi returns to the star, traveling through Wikaki Yuhapi, what Westerns calls the Big Dipper. It is upon the Wanagi Tatanku, charitable spirits, what Westerns refer to as the Milky Way galaxy, where we are reunited with our ancestor. That's actually, I mean, it is fascinating, you know.
It sure is. Yeah.
How it is, it does have kind of like a parallel with, like, for example, like more Western ideas within Christianity, you know, which, you know, like is the concept that when you die, you go to heaven and you actually get to reunite with, like, you know, your ancestors, your family, and also with like angels, you know.
Yeah, and also the coming of the celestial Messiah, right? It's
Yeah.
yeah,
Kind of like looking at the sky,
Mhm.
which is a very important variable within like spiritual practices.
Mhm. No, this is I mean, obviously because this isn't really shocking to us, this kind of contact or these kind of creation stories, because me and you are both like, we're Latino, and we have
Yeah.
indigenous backgrounds as well throughout our timeline. So we kind of know this. Like, even I think there's even a Russian proverb that was like, um, "You're made up of the stars" or some shit like that. I don't even remember. You're made up of borscht and stars, bitch. It's like
Oh my god.
here, you have the Holy Trinity: borscht, the Mazen It's Stalin. No, I'm just kidding. No, but even because we're from New Mexico, I mean, I'm from New Mexico. Like, this is, if anything, I know the creation story based on the perspective of the Hopi and the Anasazi more than I do my own creation story, which is, I don't even think I have a creation story, to be honest.
Do you ever go through like the what is it called, the catechism, the first communion, like the Catholic what is it called, the Catholic steps? There's a word for it, but I
Yeah,
cannot.
yeah, the communion, Holy Communion, catechism, um,
Uh,
yeah,
uh, let
the
me
whole
see.
dogma of everything,
The sacraments is what they call.
the
Yeah.
sacraments.
No, yeah. Like that is actually like deep intertwined in like Hispanic culture. You know.
Yeah, and also the Eucharist, right? The Eucharist was like, they think that the Eucharist was based on the usage of drugs, maybe ergot.
It is a possible, like there's kind of like this similarity between like the Lucinian mysteries and then also like
Hmm.
the the Last Supper of
Yeah,
Christ with his apostles. You know, it is extrapolating a little bit, you know, but it is fascinating to actually make those comparisons.
hmm, yeah. I I personally think that psychedelics did maybe have a big role in the development of society, but
Absolutely.
yeah, but that doesn't mean that it was a lot of people. It could have been a small minority of people that made that shift.
Yeah. I mean, that is actually like a mention, of, for example, like the Lucinian mysteries, is that they were not open to everyone, but rather it
Hmm.
was something that was more for like within like an elite of Greek society, which I don't know why they did it that way. I don't understand why. I don't know if it was, for example, out of like greed and selfishness, or if there was actually like a little utilitarian value of that,
Hmm.
considering that Greece has always been like a region that has been marked by warfare.
Yeah.
And if you're in a constant state of war, the last thing you want is are your troops actually like spreading love and peace. You don't want that. That's not gonna let you survive.
That's yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no. That's hilarious. I think.
I mean, okay. There's actually like because I'm actually watching like this documentary by Michael Pollan, and
Hmm.
back in the 50s, America was actually doing a lot of experiments with LSD, and not only like MK Ultra. Like LSD was heavily being experimented with because there was a real like medical treatment for like different like psychological disorders. And there's actually this footage of American soldiers tripping on LSD and having to like take orders, and do like the formations, the drills, and everything. It's hilarious. It was
Yeah.
an absolute total disaster. Like they will tell them like an order that we just burst out laughing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. I can imagine that. They're like, "What the fuck?"
Who's this guy?
Who's this guy? I ain't going to Iraq, fuckers. Dude, that's how probably some like nomadic plainsmen felt about Genghis Khan. They're like, what? We're not going to
Why?
Europe. Fuck that.
Bro, you have a horse and a wife, bro. You already got it all.
You already got it all. You got it all, man.
I know.
Yeah, dude, that's interesting, man. You got a horse and a wife. Why do you want to go over there? Yeah, not only do you have transportation, you have food. Bro, I want to show you this clip. It's a Joe Rogan clip.
Oh man.
Yeah, I have to be Joe Rogan.
Oh, hello. I'm watching his the debate between Graham Hancock and this archaeologist, Gribbles. I still haven't finished it.
I thought it was another one, but yeah, this one's it. Let me know if you can see my screen.
One of the things you talked about was that there was this transference, like the Eucharist eventually became a placebo. Do you think that what do you think it was initially? Do you think it was a psychedelic mushroom?
So that's Allegro certainly thought that, right?
Right.
One
of the things you talked about was that there was this transference, like the Eucharist eventually became a placebo. Do you think that what do you think it was initially? Do you think
could have been?
It is a genuine possibility, you know.
Bro, this one, dude. Do you remember Terrence McKenna?
Of course I remember Terrence McKenna.
The reason I think that shamanism is so important is a revaluing of personal identity.
He paints a very utopian and idealistic understanding of shamanism, that it's egalitarian, it's more feminine, it's less violent. So maybe there are cases where they have full moon orgies, they don't know male fraternity, and he views this as a wonderful thing. But there's also other cases like the Berserkers, like the Aztecs, incredibly violent groups that participate in ritualistic activity using inebriating substances. You can find psychedelic groups that are into cannibalism out in the Amazon alive today.
That was always like a limitation of McKenna's, you know, and I think is that he had some limitations of knowledge of history, you know. Like again, he was brilliant, absolutely brilliant man, but also utopian. And I am a believer that, you know, the path to hell is actually set with good intentions, and utopianism is always a dangerous territory to enter.
Yeah. It's
that I'm kind of pessimistic, but
yeah, no, I always liked McKenna, his philosophy, his perspective on the medicines. He mentioned that Salvia divinorum was the mother of them all, which I agree. I do think I kind of find a reflection of Hitchens in him. Do you remember Christopher Hitchens?
Christopher Hitchens, I think so.
He's the one that he wrote "God is Not Great."
No, I don't think so.
He wrote "God is Not Great," man.
God is not great.
Yeah. Let me show you who he is, bro. Like, he's a trip, man.
We need to get the Inquisition on his ass.
Dude, he's a trip, bro. Like, oh my gosh. But his intellectualness reminds me of McKenna, because he had a limitation as well. He argued for the Iraq War.
Oh man,
and he relatively pretty good, but obviously, you know, like sometimes you're wrong, you know, and and in this case, I think McKenna kind of was a little bit, you know, idealized because of his views, you know, where he was like super pro maternity, you stuff like that. Russia is a matriarchy. And look at them. They got nuclear bombs. It's like they got nuclear. They're a shamanistic society,
I know. I mean, it's how do I say it? I guess we've been actually talking for like 2 hours, actually. Man, this has been a long. I know, man.
No, we should call it, bro. Let me end the stream and then we can just talk a little bit.
All right. Make sure that the stream
Thank
is.
you, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Especially all you Rumble folks.